Wait for him.
Okay.
I knew you were showing up.
Early.
Yeah.
Being generous.
All right. All right.
Standing.
Okay.
All right.
Diane?
Yes. Gracious Father, we come before you asking for clarity and understanding in our meeting today. Remove any confusion or misunderstandings that may hinder our progress. Grant us the ability to communicate effectively and comprehend one another's perspectives. We ask for help and healing for all of our fellow Americans and our fellow Texans that were impacted by the devastating floods earlier this month, those in Texas, but also those in New Mexico and in North Carolina as well. We ask for healing for those that lost family members, that lost their children, that lost all their property. Give them only the grace and peace that you can give. And we ask this all in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Done. Thank you, Diane. Do you have any comments from the public tonight? Okay. And then any adjustments we need to consider tonight, Jeannie? Okay, thank you. We have the consent agenda, items from 5 through 9.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
A second?
a second, any comments, questions, anything to ponder?
No.
Okay. On,
Oh, yeah, the MCAT election, sure. MCAT election, sure. Anytime. Last year we had the election
yeah,
a year ago, and Arthur got the 3-year term. Pedrosa got a 1 year. Well, then he came back this year. We started the election process for this year. And there was a problem with the calculation and everything that happened from the last election we had. So it was possible that they would switch. Arthur would get the one, Louis Pedrosa would get. Well, that did happen. The election has to be called by one reclamation conservation district by June the 1st, every time on the odd years. Okay. We found out on June the 13th when Arthur came right before you all's meeting that there was a problem with that election. So they had to go back and recalculate because an ESD in the hospital district is not a reclamation conservation district. So they had to go back and recalculate. Arthur got the 1 year, Louis Pedrosa got the 3 year. So now, because we found out on the 13th of June, remember June 1st is our deadline. We missed the deadline and ESD called the election, and all it takes is one reclamation conservation district to call the election. Then you get to you get to nominate who you want to. Well, because they are not a reclamation conservation district, we are now out of the election for this year. The special districts are. There will still be a city, county, and school in the fall, but the special districts are now out for this go around. So lesson learned out of it, we are all going to, in the participating districts, they're going to call the election before June the 1st in May, every time on the odd years, every time it comes around. That way we know for sure it's called by the right district.
this is the first time this has ever happened.
Yes. It's been like these ESDs and hospital district has been in this election for years. And we're just now finding out that they're not reclamation conservation district.
Who figured it out?
An ESD figured it out and called the appraisal district.
Hmm.
And then they started checking it out, and then that's what happened. And of course, we weren't going to find out till the Friday after your meeting last month.
Hmm.
So this is where we stand today.
Oh, thank you for that.
Welcome.
Okay, I think we were down to all those in favor of passing the consent agenda.
Yep.
Aye. Okay. Passes. Thank you. Okay, receive the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report.
Good afternoon. Report begins on page 26. No violations, nothing out of the ordinary. Therefore, Florida blend is still 50-50, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Chris, on page 34, am I reading that right, that you're under budget at year to date of like 1.7 million? Is that pretty normal? Like kind of mid-year?
No, and it's misleading. Haley has a good explanation. She's looking for something to do.
So the last mud asked the same question about our revenues and our overall budget of where we're sitting this year. So if you remember in March, we did an excess fund calculation and we ended up refunding the MUDs about 5.1 million. So you'll see that in the revenue line, which is why there's a $4 million variance year to date. Is because we refunded that money. And then I think we're about, like you said, $1 million to the good on our overall budget for this year.
$1 million positive.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything for Chris? Anyone else? SJRA Woodlands report. Okay, that's item 10. Item 11, we're gonna consider and act the draft fiscal year 26 Woodlands Division budget.
Good evening, everybody. As y'all might be aware, at the trustees meeting, we presented two different changes to the budget from what we presented in June. So I'm gonna run through the highlights, but if you want the full present, I'm happy to give that as well. And then I'll ask for y'all's vote to direct your trustee at the August meeting to approve our budget. So the two changes that I presented at the trustees meeting that is different from the budget we presented in June. The first one is the GRP rate is going down another penny from June. So it'll be 5 cents from our current budget. So it'll go down to $2.92. And then the second change is a change in our project plan. So we presented the project plan in April. And since we presented that in April, TWB came back and approved our budget amendment request to move one of our projects to be bond funded out of our existing 2017 bonds. So you'll see that change in the budget to move that project to be bond funded. And then just a reminder, the water rate is going to stay the same at $2.73 and the wastewater stay the same at $5.65. With that, if you don't have any questions, I'll leave y'all to vote.
Direct our trustee to approve the budget.
I'll second.
Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, none. I will do so. Thank you. Item 12, we're going to discuss and or act on a water line renewal plan and analysis completed by HDR engineers.
Yeah, latest update is and you saw the responses we sent out on Friday, but a handful of directors sent in some comments over the last month. Those were forwarded to HDR. In return, they presented those responses, which we provided on Friday. So with that, the next step will be we're going to set up a call for those individuals that had comments to just get on a call with the HDR folks to talk through their responses to those comments and get them a little bit further along on their understanding and clarification. So that's the next step. And then several MUDs have talked about town center in particular and what do we do there because it's essentially 95-97% designed and ready to go, which was I think a tier 1 project on the list. So that's something that several of the MUDs have made motion to move forward with that one.
With the, have those motions been to proceed with the project or proceed with the right of way easement work?
So
And
the official
redesign.
Yeah, official wording would be to take the easement. So if you look in your packet, on the projects, there's kind of two pieces, easements and the design. And so the motion would be to combine those, reallocating the monies from the easement portion into the redesign and proceed with the redesign so that they can then identify what easements they need to get, which likely that would create additional easement monies needed in the future, but until they move forward with the redesign, they won't know that. And effectively, we know that the intent would be to move it further east outside of the road right of way. So it's not under the potential future pavement, which is being discussed. That would be the goal of the redesign, to get it out from under it would be under that third travel lane of pavement, which you don't really want your water line under the pavement in case it busts. So that would be direct the trustee to approve the reallocation of the easement funds, take both off hold and proceed with the redesign. Is that good?
So I mean, there's another, so this will be an R&R project, right, ultimately. So this is design and easement. When that's done, is there another process to get it funded, as it were, right?
For construction, yeah,
Yeah.
assuming you go through with design, that means you're gonna go to construction at some point. There's gonna need to be discussion on how you're gonna fund construction. If it's R&R, cash based, or bonds or whatever, but it's 15 to 20 million. So to get a lot of cash in 18 months would be kind of hard.
So was there any discussion on that plan and what those options are?
No, we don't know the numbers yet.
So we have an idea-ish.
18.
18, it's not 5 and it's not 50, right? So let's say it's 18.
We would sell bonds to do the construction, and then if, then there'd have to be some discussion with all of the MUDs as to how we get paid monthly and annually to cover the debt service. And so in some cases, some districts may want to pay cash, some may want to do the rollback, some may, beyond that, there aren't too many other options.
Is there a third option that?
Not,
Increase retail rates.
yeah, increase the water and sewer rates.
It's gonna flow through in your wholesale rate.
Yeah. Isn't that like cash? Isn't that like spending cash? I
Well,
mean, if you're gonna make up that cash, you're gonna dig into reserves or something. It's gonna
So,
come out of somewhere, right?
if it would be a larger component of the wholesale rate attributed to debt service, whether it's 20 million bond issue or more, if there's more tier 1, tier 2
Mhm.
projects packaged with that bond issue. And then, so just making the number, say it's 10 cents on the wholesale rate. The MUDs will then decide, do I increase the retail rate by 10 cents? So it's a wash.
Mhm.
Do I increase it by, a portion of that, a portion of it being maybe 6 cents, and then 4 cents I pay for it in cash reserve if I have excess cash reserve, so I don't increase. And I know Eric wants to try to keep retail rates uniform across the MUDs. We'll have to see if that's possible or not. We're just going through the options.
Yeah, I understand.
That's an option. Or, maybe you try to do a rollback election and not pass on any of the 10 cents to retail rates and fund it all through a rollback election, or some portion of the 10 cents through a rollback election. Those are the kind of options that, and that is going to be a recurring discussion every time we do a tranche of bonds. How are the retail districts, how are the MUDs going to pay for that pass through, that incremental pass through in the wholesale rate? So it won't be a one-off deal like, oh, I decided to do a rollback election, unless you want to go for a bigger piece of a rollback election that will allow you to generate funds that you would set aside, over a number of years to be able to pay out maybe multiple tranches of bonds. But that's a little bit more.
You guys know.
That's important though. I mean, that piece, I think you don't dive down a path without really knowing the overall big picture of what that means. Cause you might realize, well, yeah, if it was this number, I'd have gone down this path, but if it is, 7 projects in the treatment, and now the number's this, I might not have gone down that path, so.
And, if there's one or two or a handful of tier 1, tier 2 projects that all the districts decide to go forward with, and it's a smaller incremental increase in your wholesale rate, the MUDs may say, look, let's just try to do some combination of a retail rate increase and maybe, a slight use of cash, and give us more time to, formulate a more full-throated outreach to the community for a rollback election, and do that in anticipation of larger, numbers. wastewater treatment plant, maybe some more lines that aren't included in the first tranche, because that's gonna be a big lift to the community in your, I mean, you're all the ones doing it, not me, but I would think that you're only gonna wanna do that lift once. Not go back and say, oh, we're coming back to you for another rollback election. You only wanna do that once. So if you can incrementally maybe bite down with a retail rate increase or cash the first tranche or so to give you time to come up with your game plan for a rollback rate, that may be the way to go too.
That makes more sense.
How much money does Mud 47 have tied up in the Mud 67 project right now? So we
Drainage.
earmarked, yeah, yeah. How much did we contribute to?
Like 1.7, right?
So I thought.
I don't recall.
That's
One, 1.6.
We're in that range.
And Brian, can you consider a world where MUDs do any or all those separate differently, and we have this kind of consortium of ways of it gets funded? I know it goes against what you're trying to achieve on
I'm
one
gonna ask
hand.
for some consistency, but knowing that, various MUDs aren't in the same position. So they may not have the same flexibility. So we'll just have to see how that works out. But I like the idea of, address, because if we're talking about 18 million or even 20, that's not gonna create a large impact to the customer, like multiple hundred millions, would. So it might be $3, $4, $5 on the bill instead of 20, 30, 50, 60 or whatever. So while you're figuring out the rest, because as we spoke before, the only time that you could even do a rollback tax election would be in November of any given year.
Yeah.
So think about that. I mean, it has to be called in August this year to meet this year. So that's not going to happen. So you're likely looking at next year, next summer, making this decision on, again, if that's the path of whether or not to have an election in November of 26.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if it's in the deck. Is there an estimate for the redesign plus easement? If you had it, just a guess right now?
Yeah, redesign is roughly 700,000. Easement cost is to be determined based off the redesign and what's private and what's government.
And what would be the timing of this construction funding? Is that
We
sometime?
need construction funds. So like November is the month that y'all tell us to go forward. We're 18 months to the end of engineering and easement acquisition. So we would need funds within 13 months of whenever authorization is provided to go forward with design. And the reason I say 13 months, we would sell bonds a couple of months prior to go advertising for bid, because we're finding that we're supposed to have all the funds in place before we sign contracts. In the past, we've not always followed that rule. So our bond payments, interest payments are in April, and principal and interest are paid in October. So depending on that cycle, we might need to have funds to pay the first debt service interest payment or interest and principal in October if we advertise in June.
Okay, that helps. That's what I was looking for. Does the redesign 700,000, does that include easement work as well? I mean, as far as identifying and getting what you
Needs them
need,
down.
you're not paying for easements.
Right, so it's
Definitely.
everything except for actual
Okay.
physical buying of the.
Yeah, okay.
easements.
The legal descriptions,
Yeah,
the exhibits, everything that we would need to hand off to the property owner to say, we need to acquire an easement.
Sounds, because there shouldn't be a lot of other design. You're just moving lines. Essentially, you got to redesign that. I get that, right?
It's about 3,000 feet that has to be
Is
redesigned.
that what it is? Okay. So there's some questions that are going to be kind of that have been asked in addition to what's been published so far. There's a meeting to chat about that first week in August. That's the week before the trustee meeting. So
Is that the phone call or do we have a online meeting?
no, it's a Zoom meeting, I
Yeah, I
guess.
think
It's
it's a
going to be.
Teams meeting. We'll record it, make it available afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying not to create another All Muds because there wasn't that much interest in the comments. There was only five or six. And so those muds that want to get involved, we got 2 spots for each mud if you wanted it. But there wasn't even that much interest previously, at least in the comments. So we're trying to get those guys covered. Because there's a lot of directors that are ready. They don't have comments or questions and they're ready to go.
And the responses that came back, I thought were pretty helpful. I mean, I think they went further to answer some of the questions that were put together. And I've talked to some of the other directors and they feel the same thing. But this last bit is also important for them to get their arms around. So I guess we can do a couple things. We can authorize, we would put a motion together to direct me to do something or for us to vote on that till we can decide how we want to position MUD 47 in August. I don't want to go in there without a decision from us or at least support from you all. And if you're not ready to give that, that's fine, but we should decide that now, I think, so I know in August.
How can we do that with, not having the answers back yet, though? I know it's a bad timing, obviously.
Yeah. Have you read the responses back from the questions that were asked?
I read it a little
A
bit.
chance to go through that. I mean, I think that's where I got comfortable that there was no new ground plowed in my mind. There was some clarifications that were good questions and good clarifications that came from them. But at the end of the day, you have to feel comfortable at least authorizing, if we put this together, the easement and redesign together as a motion to go forward with that.
Just the town center.
Yeah.
We know that kind of has to
That
be
has to.
done, is that
Kinda
was
no
one thing
regrets
in the presentations that we listened to. Everything else was, we could like push this aside. But this was kind of, from their learned opinion, was kind of like if you don't do anything else, you must do this. And with increase in traffic and everything that's going on,
And they put some weight on the fact that it is essentially designed, other than this easement piece that we're going to do.
Right.
If we let this go too far, then.
but it's not that hard either. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an inconvenience to the.
Well,
area there,
inconvenience,
right?
yes.
But I guess in my mind, they did, because that was one of the questions. It's why does the fact that it's designed have any impact on doing it? Does it change our thinking about why we should do this now versus later? And the answer to that is, yeah. It's kind of at that point where it's ready to go. It's kind of a no regrets. You spent $1 million+ on design. Further you get away from that design, the more you're gonna have to spend to get it back into ready for a new construction project, right? Because things happen. So I think that did weigh in on, that was one of the answers that they gave. So, yeah, we did put some weight into that. If you had no design out there, if you're starting from a blank piece of paper, then yeah, maybe you could pace this a bit. I think there's a lot of pacing discussions for all the rest of the stuff, for sure.
Well, I'm ready for you to move forward.
Yeah, the town center.
With an
Yeah.
affirmative vote on this.
Yeah.
On the
On the
redesign
area.
and
The easement.
and the easement
Yes.
procurement.
Yep.
Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
Motion to allow Hugh to vote on the town center project.
I'll second.
Vote to approve it, yeah.
Good.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Motion passed. So can we craft that so it's approval, directing me to approve the consolidation of the redesign and the easement work at the next director meeting?
Yeah.
That we'd be in support.
Next trustee meeting.
Sorry, trustee meeting, yes,
Okay.
yes.
We got that.
Right.
All right, thanks, everyone. Okay. Item 13, which is the Bear Branch and Panther Branch.
Yes, well,
Project. Update on that.
engineers are finalizing the executive summary. That was the last step. And then we set up meetings with local, agencies and legislative leaders to see if we can find some more money. So, bring Craig into it, as we get a little deeper into some of that stuff. Once we get the executive summary, we'll be ready to roll. We're trying to get that meeting scheduled.
This,
Related but unrelated, different project, the dam project, there is a meeting of the stakeholders this coming Monday for y'all to hear from the structural engineer Schnabel that gave the recommendations on the dam structural. So you'll get to hear that on Monday. That'll be at the community center.
At 5:30.
Correct.
Else? Okay, any other questions? All right, Brian, anything on the attorney's report, item 14?
Much today, y'all should have received a copy of the legislative summary from the session that wrapped up at the beginning of June. Y'all have questions on any of those bills, feel free to give me a ring. Also, you may have heard that the governor has called a special session that will start on Monday. Those special sessions are 30 days and there's not a limit to how many he can call. So we'll see how much gets handled through this first session. He has called a session for 18 items. So we will be watching a handful of those that could impact our special district clients. And
Which are some of the ones that you're watching that are coming up in this special session?
let's see here. So there are some broadly worded items that deal with warning systems and preparedness for flood prone areas. Now, of
That's,
course,
they wanted to put the sirens up, all of that.
well, you would think that that would be spurred by what, unfortunately, the tragedy in Kerrville, but there are some items that are more specific to that area. But there are others that are more broad that, could potentially impact our clients, because, flood prone areas, Long Spring Creek, what have you. So legislation to strengthen emergency communications and other response infrastructure in flood prone areas throughout Texas. So it has that throughout Texas language again. There's an item about reducing the property tax burden on Texans and legislation imposing spending limits on entities authorized to impose property taxes. So we talked about some bills that were not very well drafted that could have provided some pretty draconian limits on MUD's ability to pay for rehab and rehabilitation from year to year. And so we'll be watching to see what comes out of this. Pretty broadly worded language, but we'll be watching that. The item regarding taxpayer funded lobbying, we talked about that bill and how it has come up for multiple sessions now. It passed the Senate this year, did not pass the House. It's on the special session agenda as well. So we'll be watching that to see if it gets any further than it did in regular session. So a handful of items out of those 18 that we'll be watching.
Well, hopefully they'll get something done in the special session, because they sure didn't get it done in the regular session.
Yeah, sometimes that can be a blessing and a curse. I'm not sure.
So,
Less accomplished is better than accomplishments that, have negative outcomes.
correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. Item 15, to discuss, interact on adding the Woodlands Water Agency email addresses to 547, the website. Eric, I think that's updates on that for us.
Yes, we looked into being able to do that. I think I expressed concern that listing the actual address would not be wise. And so we've been talked with our cybersecurity and web creator, and believe we have a solution which would allow a resident to go onto the website, look under your page, identify or find you in a drop down for sending an email, and then they could find you, click you, and then type their message. And then when they hit send, it would go to the email address that you have on file or that you prefer. That way, it's not specifically written on there, but they can still get directly to you. If you respond to them, then they will then have your direct number information. But likely you'll know.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Only if we respond, you're saying, otherwise
Yeah.
they don't really see the email that's going
On
out,
their front end, they don't see.
Yeah.
They just see that they're sending an email to this name.
submitted
Yeah.
On
and,
your end,
Yeah.
you're gonna see an email come in from whomever.
Right.
And that you.
And if I respond, then they'll know it's me personally that's sending it back, and I'm good with that, because at that point, it's like, if it's a constituent and it needs to be addressed, then I'm all for communicating to them.
I'd like to make a motion that we add our email addresses in the manner that you just outlined.
can I ask a question, just a technical question? I don't disagree with that motion though, but, will there be a function to do like kind of a e-message all of us? And does that put us in any risk of kind of Open Meeting
Yeah.
Act stuff
I
or?
wouldn't want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather keep it separate. They could copy, I mean, they could send one independently, each one, they copy and paste probably do that, but I don't think we want to go down that path.
Yeah.
Because that could start unintendedly,
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, it might, okay,
unintended consequences.
yeah, okay.
Or when you respond to all. It's not
Right.
when-
Yeah,
It's not that they sent something, it's when you respond to all.
Exactly.
That's when it could trigger
Yeah.
issues for you.
And if we get an email, we can bring it to a meeting and share it with everyone.
Exactly.
publicly.
Well, and I would rather something different happen. I would rather that if there is a topic that you think warrants some additional discussion based on something you got, bring it to my attention so I can get it on the agenda. That would be a lot simpler to talk about openly, whatever the issue is. Or we can talk about it directly. It may be something I can answer and we can answer it outside of a real meeting. We can just get that information back over to the requester, you know, so it just depends on what the content is, but that's what I'd ask of the directors is just share that your kind of dialogue with them if you specifically want any action or discussion rather at the next meeting. Or get it on the agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion to act on adding the email addresses through this process?
So moved.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All passed. Thank you very much. So item 16, we'll act on and receive the general manager's report. Back to you.
All right. Yes, a couple updates. Just want to update you that we are further along. We've actually changed out our security system, our fire system, and access control. So they're up to code and got a couple minor punch list things to do, but I'm happy to report that what we set out to do, we've done, and everything's working a lot better and up to code. So that's good. We wanted to share with you some internal things that we've done this year. Over the last 6 months, we've developed a career pathing program for the employees. And that included redoing all of our job descriptions, building a performance review program. And I'm happy to report that not only did we build it, we've now also implemented all the reviews with all the employees in time to kind of take that into consideration under budget setting. So it was a heavy lift, but we got it done. And I think the employees have really embraced the opportunity because they really haven't had a review as this for forever, for a while. So be a good program.
Nice job.
Thank you. Wanted to mention to you that we are continuing to run the ditches to do the assessment of the ditches in the ditch condition and piping, associated piping. We're probably 85% done at this point. And so the information, once we get done, hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be able to tie that into a project plan that will then be utilized to talk budgets with the different muds. So we'll kind of isolate each mud to identify what improvements need to be addressed, whether it's failing pipe or silted in ditches or whatever the case may be, and kind of work with each mud to figure out, okay, what's the path? Kind of like this bigger discussion, but what's the path forward? Can we do it in cash? Do we need to do it over a few years? Do we need to tie it into a rollback for the others? I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can skin it. But once we have the assessment done and kind of start putting cost estimates to it, then we'll be able to better answer some of those questions, give some insight.
What's your early reactions to just what you've found so far? I mean, you say you were in good shape, you got a lot of work to do, or oh dear, in general?
We got some work to do.
Okay.
no catastrophe, maybe one very significant situation, not in 47. But other than that, no other significant situations. I mean, we have a number of, what I knew going into it is why we started it, was over the last few years, we've experienced a number of CMP corrugated metal pipe failures. The metal pipe disintegrates over 30, 40, 50 years. And when it does, it starts taking on soil. When it does, sinkholes are created. And they're all over the place. That is consistent. And probably something else that's consistent is siltation is hit or miss. It just kind of depends. You know, siltation, a trapezoidal ditch silting in over time is natural. But some ditches have greater fall and greater velocity. In those cases, some of that siltation scours itself out. Mother Nature kind of does its thing. But in other ditches that are flatter, doesn't have the velocity to blow that silt out over time, so it slowly accumulates. So it's different levels of that. And then the third thing that is pretty significant in some areas, probably some of the older ditches, is tree overgrowth. So, you know, a normal ditch should be trapezoidal in nature, and then at the top it should have a maintenance berm, we call it, down to the interceptor swales that kind of run parallel, small little ditches along the sides. Well, there's trees right at that, and right at the top end of that line is the property line. That's usually where the trees are. Well, they've overgrown, in some cases, over the maintenance berm where you can't even drive on it. You'd have to go and drive down the ditch to drive longitudinal along the ditch. So I want to get all that overgrowth pushed back so that we can access these ditches a little bit better. And in some cases, we're gonna have to do that to even do some of the work that needs to be done to get down. You know, we can do it in a UTV, but you know, to pull in the material that's going to be necessary to fill in a big hole, let's just say further down the ditch, you're going to need a dump truck and, you know, other heavier equipment that can't even get past right now in some cases. So all those things are kind of hit or miss. There's not one consistent message, I'd say, other than overall the ditches look really good. I mean, overall, I'd say that is a consistent message. They're doing their job. Some need a little work.
Yeah.
And then some of that work is money wise is extensive, but the ditch itself isn't in a catastrophic situation.
47 looks pretty good.
Yeah, 47, most of 47 looks really good.
Eric, on page 67, there's looks like violations from the contractor at 3905 FM 1488. Is that the Howard Hughes development? Not following sewer? And I guess the contractor's not responding to your staff?
Oh, that's for the entrance. Yeah, so under the SWPPP that they would have filed, there's various things that a engineer will require to meet a stormwater pollution prevention plan. That's what SWPPP stands for. And in this case, I believe it's the construction entrance that's not been properly developed or built. Which essentially, if you drive by and you see kind of the entrance to a construction site and you see a really rough bouldery looking entrance that you know, kind of, that's a typical construction entrance. The idea is that as you go in and out, some of the mud that you might pick up on site gets kind of knocked off in that rough area. That's the conceptual idea.
We need one of those at the Ritz-Carlton. Just driving here tonight, it was a plume of dust going through there. It must be because they don't shake it all off before they come out onto Lake Woodlands Drive.
So anyway, they have not done that properly and they need to do that. So that's what the basis of that is.
I see.
And you guys caught that, not a resident or a.
Right. LJA helps us, you know, we'll both kind of be looking, and if we see something, we'll point it out, but LJA manages that for us on active projects.
Good, I'm glad it's being watched.
Yeah, knows that section of 1488 is already a mess.
I don't know if it's the general manager's report, the notice of an invitation from Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District to attend a meeting September 18th.
Yeah, that's my next item.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right. So Lone Star is going to be hosting two meetings in September. September 17th is their next, well, they're hosting the GMA 14 meeting, and that's September 17th at Lone Star. And then the next day, September 18th, they're hosting, I believe 9 a.m., they're hosting a MUD informational meeting that is, my understanding is they're going to go over their modeling that they're doing right now that feeds into their DFC, which is desired future condition, which has the impact of that is that's kind of where they set the maximum groundwater pumpage availability each year, or it's a 5-year look. So the 5 years is up. And so I think next mid 26 is when the new DFC gets adopted, I believe. So they'll be telling us all about that on the 18th.
So MUD directors are supposed to attend the 18th one.
It says it's open to the public, yes. Now, that room is very small. So we've heard rumors that once it's filled, you're not getting in. So I don't know.
Well, it's a long drive for us, but they're talking the entire county of MUD directors.
Right,
Wow.
right. And there's some growing, definitely some growing interest in the community in South County for sure. In fact, several directors, one from the Woodlands and one from some MUDs across the freeway, actually attended the Lone Star meeting last week and made public comment, basically pointing out their opinion that Lone Star is not properly managing the aquifer and its decline. In so many words, that's not exactly how it was said. You can go on the video and watch that, those public comment.
Do you have any idea how many public comments there were? Like 20 or less?
No, no, not that many. No, there were
I can only dream.
definitely less. Definitely less. But I think there's some growing public understanding of the issue and also growing public interest in getting involved. And I think that's what a lot of folks for a long time have said that's what needed to happen. So it'll be interesting to see if this little group kind of continues to move.
Too bad we don't have our Stop Our Sinking site anymore.
We talked about the band meetings, I think that was it. The only other thing was to go through and John couldn't be here. His son's birthday is today, so I let him, told him he needed to be over there. So,
Right answer.
Yep. Yep. So a couple things he just wanted me to point out that on communications, the community working group meeting, we had another one a few weeks ago. And that was, I guess it was July 1st, yes. And we had Mira Victor come and do a presentation on the their condition analysis of the wastewater treatment plant. I didn't talk about any numbers or capacities or anything like that, just purely the condition assessment from their standpoint. That was on the heels of the previous meeting where the CWG took an actual physical tour. So they was kind of a made sense follow-up to go through the engineer's evaluation. So that went pretty well. There was in the community impact, there was an article kind of showcasing the community work group and what they're doing and why. So I think that went pretty well. John wanted me to point out, we did hire a part-time individual, Stephanie Williams, probably 6 weeks ago. And on page 79, he wanted to kind of point out, it was really with the intention to increase focus on social media. So with Facebook, Instagram, or X, LinkedIn, maybe one other one. But in this case, Facebook and Instagram there, you can see that kind of pre and post, it went up almost 150%. So we're getting a lot more engagement with the community. The intention here was just to diversify the PEC and strategic communication plan that you see every day. You know, a lot of the content is the same content, just reformatted for different outlets. So it's the messaging is still consistent with the strategic communication plan that you might see in the weekly, or you might see in emails or other things that we already post on the bill, things like that John already does. So it seems that is having a real good impact. So I think that was all that he had. So that's all I have.
Any more questions, comments? Okay, let's move on to 17. Reviewing the Woodlands Water Trustee Report. We discussed
81, page 81.
quite a bit of that already, but yeah.
A lot of what we talked about today, the budget update, town center was talked about a little bit. I did give an update on the GRP. I continue to meet with Brad every month, and Kim, we go over the previous months and look forward to the next month. So that's going pretty well. A couple things to note. You heard about the extra 1 cent tonight. Part of that is in response to one of the items that the GRP committee will be looking at, which is an approval was deferred at the last month, but the Mid-South Synergy has requested to get 1.5 MGD back. They had relinquished they had damage and a fire at their facility a few years ago, and they opted out. Now they've changed their mind. They want to jump back in and to the tune of about 1.5 MGD to the surface water plant. And so we just wanted to see how the numbers fell before we approved it. But essentially the result is another penny, which Haley mentioned earlier. That's in response to that. So a few months ago, I think the average flow through the surface water plant was 13.2. That was up or proposed to be up to 15 a month or so ago. We approved that. And then this would take it to 16.5 on an annual average. Keep in mind, that was something that's kind of come out is that plant hits 28, 29 million in the summer, but the annual and lower than, 13, I don't know what the lows are.
8 or 9.
8 or 9 in the winters. But the annual average is that 15, 16 number that we've been talking about, or 13 now, then 15 now, 16 and a half. So positive news I think that's one of the things that you asked, for SRA and myself, just to make sure that we were looking at increasing utilization of the plant while decreasing costs. And I think that's happening. So that's very positive.
I guess adding more base load means that there's a different profile for the max that certain customers can bring, right? So, or actually pull on the plant.
And that's one thing we did is talk about. Over the coming months, I'll be taking production strategies, operational strategies of the facility back to the review committee. It may actually change how we do the flow. Right now, the flow basically varies every single day. We could go to a steady flow. We could go to a seasonal flow. A lot of different options are going to be taken. So that way everybody still gets water, but it removes that max cap. Be fun.
Yeah.
To watch.
You're gonna swing on something, right? Just don't know what yet. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. And at times like this, when there's so much water coming out of the sky and nobody's watering their yards, or you're on some low rates, I bet.
Yeah, we're still above the winter. We're about 13, 14
Okay,
at this
yeah.
point in time. So it's not bad.
But usually I would imagine July is something very different.
2022.
Yeah.
And last year was fairly wet like this, but
Yeah.
2 prior years it wasn't. It was dry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we wish for rain, but it doesn't.
We're getting it. Just getting through. I think there's much else to talk about. I think we covered it all. Any questions on the trustee report or anything for Eric on that or me? Happy to get into more of that if you want. No? Okay. Any need to recess to closed session? Okay, very good. Then we will reconvene after closing. Doesn't look like any more comments from the public. Any items for discussion and future agendas to add? Nothing right now?
Think we're good.
Okay. Then we are adjourned at 6:48.